Andrew Marvell was born on 31 March at Yorkshire 1621, 14 miles south-east of Hull. 3 years later, his family moved to Hull when his father was appointed Master of Hull Charterhouse, an almshouse for the poor just north of Hull's town walls. Marvell attended Hull Grammar School between 1629 to 33, leaving for Trinity College, Cambridge in December 1633. His Yorkshire connections later led him to Nunn Appleton, near York, where in 1652-52 he worked as tutor to the daughter of Thomas, Lord Fairfax, the former general of the New Model Army. In 1659, Marvell was elected MP for Hull, a post he held until his sudden death in August 1678 of a fever he had contracted on a visit to Hull. About the town's affairs, I want to explore the influence on Marvell's poetry and prose of three key landmarks from his boyhood: life in Hull, the Charterhouse, Grammar School, and Holy Trinity Church. All three appear on the map of Hull prepared by Wenceslas Hollar in c. 1640. Hollar's map offers a unique insight into the urban appearance of Marvell's Hull on the eve of the First English Civil War and the subsequent destruction of the Charterhouse. In September 1643, the Charterhouse was founded in the 1350s as an almshouse for the poor. There was also a Carthusian monastery next door, but this was suppressed under Henry V and the priory church converted into a private house. In Marvell's day, it was home to the Ulurids, who were later connected to the Marvells by marriage. Unlike the monastery, the Charterhouse survived the Reformation and still continues to this day. The Marvells lived at the Charterhouse from 1624 until the Reverend Marvell's death on the River Humber in January 1641. Hollar represents the Charterhouse as a cluster of buildings in the bottom left-hand corner of his map, with the Ulurids' house set slightly apart in open fields. The medieval arched entrance to the monastery stands between the Charterhouses, two westernmost buildings, the larger of which closest to the town walls was the Master's House. All these buildings were demolished during the First English Civil War in September 1643. Hull was a parliamentary town facing its second Royalist siege in as many years, and its governor, Lord Ferdinando Fairfax, blew up the Charterhouse to build a gun post on the ruins. Few traces of Marvell's Charterhouse survive above ground. Today, the present buildings were built in 1780, although parts of the Master's House date from the 1650s, and medieval brickwork forms part of the garden wall. Hull's 1643 siege nevertheless leaves its mark on at least one of Marvell's later poems, Upon Appleton House, to my Lord Fairfax, composed in c. 1651. This poem in praise of country life, written at Nunn Appleton, near York, seems a world away from Hull's urban ruins, but a quarter of its 800 lines describe the ruins of Nunn Appleton Nunnery, and Marvell's preoccupation with ruins may well reflect the ruin of Hull Charterhouse in 1643. Upon Appleton House also reflects Marvell's fears that month over the threat of another Royalist siege of Hull. John Shaw, the new master of the Charterhouse in the early 1650s, had celebrated Hull as a virgin town for its victory over the Royalists in 1643. But in August 1651, Hull faced a new threat from Scotland's newly crowned king, Charles II, whose invasion of England had sparked fears of a Royalist uprising around the city. England's Commonwealth government wrote to Fairfax at Nunn Appleton on 12 August 1651, calling upon him to defend Hull, of which you are now Governor. Fairfax' role as Hull's new governor is marked in the poem by his appearance as governor of Nunn Appleton's fortress-like garden, a garden that also stands in Upon Appleton House as a symbol of Fairfax's virtuous soul. I.V. Marvell contrasts Fairfax's virtues with the virgin buildings of Nunn Appleton Nunnery. Its ruin a century earlier, the poem attributes to rumors of sexual scandals among its not-so-virginal nuns. The poem asks Fairfax to learn a lesson from Nunn Appleton's nuns. It calls on him to use moral virtues as well as military prowess to defend God's virgin town. In August 1651, just as Fairfax's father had when he was governor of Hull during the 1643 siege, a number of Marvell's father's sermons survive in manuscript. 10 appear in his own hand in the unique sermon book preserved at the Hull History Centre, 1624 to 1640. This sermon book also contains a reading list and a section headed Things to be considered about the hospital called God's House, in which Marvell Sr. proposes building a competent library above the Common Hall at Hull Charterhouse. Marvell's father pledged his own books to this library, which he wanted to make accessible to all. It will be some honor to the town that men may say they have a good library, he writes. I know no public place North Ward of which it can be so spoken. Several of Marvell's poems contain suggestive echoes of images from sermons collected in his father's sermon book, prompting questions about the whereabouts of this manuscript after 1641. The sermon book builds an image of Marvell's father as a tolerant and open-minded churchman. Alongside the sermons, it contains a medieval life of Christ, notes on Hull Puritans, and even a banned heretical text, the Rockovian Catechism. Marvell's later writings in defense of religious freedoms may well have been shaped by his early exposure to his father's eclectic religious tastes. The old grammar school that Marvell attended still stands today on South Church Side, Hull. The schoolroom, on the ground floor, measures only 20 by 70 feet. Marvell's memories of grammar school are recorded in two prose works from the early 1670s. Both works defend freedom of worship for Protestants outside the Church of England, in the process attacking to Anglican churchmen Samuel Parker and Francis Turner, who had argued against such freedoms in print. Yet several of Marvell's slurs reveal as much about his own school days as his sneering disregard for these two churchmen. What emerges from Marvell's brief remarks is a memory of grammar school as a place of crude education and crueler violence. Marvell's school days in Hull also leave their mark on his later poetry. Among the poems he wrote at Nunn Appleton, near York, in the early 1650s are two to his worthy friend Dr. Whitty. Whitty was born and educated in Beverley, near Hull, and after attending Cambridge University was appointed usher at Hull Grammar School in 1634. He left the school in 1640 to pursue a medical career, moving to York in 1651. Marvell's poems to Whitty must date from soon after his arrival at Nunn Appleton in autumn 1650. They were printed in Popular Errors, or the Errors of the People in Physic 1651, which contains a preface that Whitty signs from my house at Hull Decem. 2, 1650 Smith. 178. Popular Errors was Whitty's English translation of a Latin medical text by the Hull physician James Primrose, but Marvell's poems are less concerned with Primrose's medical themes than Whitty's skills as a translator. Marvell's reference to Whitty as his worthy friend implies a deep-rooted friendship that can be traced back to Whitty's time teaching Latin at Hull Grammar School in the 1630s. When Marvell was dividing his time between Cambridge and Hull, with its praise of Whitty's Latin skills, and allusions to his own role teaching modern languages to Celia, most likely his new tutor, at Nunn Appleton. May Fairfax Marvell's poem in this sense reminds Whitty of their shared experience as tutors.